It is my pleasure now to introduce our speaker, Reverend Dr. Nicole Charles. She is the Chief Executive Officer at the Edgar Cayce's ARE. Reverend Charles is an ordained interfaith minister. She holds a doctorate in interfaith theology, specializing in spirituality and health, and a master's in integrative health. She has taught undergraduate and graduate courses specializing in community health, integrative nutrition, and behavior health. Her passion is being in service to others so they may be change agents in their communities. Reverend Charles has concentrated her career in nonprofit executive management and higher education institutions. She seeks to forge alliances toward community engagement and capacity building that supports multi-generational participation and action. Here's a quote she shares: "I seek to honor the Cayce legacy and bring forth new opportunities to the ARE that will foster greater access, growth, and transformative change. Advancing these efforts will increase participation and engagement of the individual, the family, the community, and our world." End quote. Having traveled extensively through various countries in Africa and the Caribbean Isles, Nicole has been able to honor her many passions within research of Afro-spiritual traditions and indigenous natural medicine. Her love of people and the sharing of personal and collective stories has supported her deep spiritual practice of honoring, prayer, and meditation. This pursuit has also allowed her to examine the common spiritual principles and practices amongst all peoples, cultures, and religions. A part of her vision for the ARE is to expand the outreach and impact of the Edgar Cayce material, extending access to all communities and age groups, supporting mind, body, and spirit for the health, wellness, and well-being of our communities. We open our hearts and minds to hear today's message and welcome Reverend Dr. Nicole Charles.
Good morning, everyone. When I was hearing that, I was like, oh my God, that's a lot. And I'm saying that it's a lot, not just because of what I do, but because I can't do it unless I have a community to do it with, you know? And so that has been a creation of working with people and working with people who are working to make our world better. And I'm like, wow. And I'm thinking of that journey of people who I've encountered and how we have done it as a collective. When you talk about your world, how can we change the world? People always think it's the massive. It begins in your home. The world begins with you. You're part of the system. You're part of the world. And so I'm gonna, before we really get deeper in this month of Thanksgiving, I want to ask you if you would do a little bit of experiential work with me today. It's going to be a little different. If you have the strength, I want to ask you to stand. Something we do, we just, we hug people, we introduce, hey, how you doing, right? But we forget to do that to ourselves. I'm going to ask you to give yourself a hug and to say your name. So your first name in the middle, your last is given to you, but your first is the gifting to you. So say your name. I, Nicole Yvette, am so very happy to re-meet you. I've been carrying you around through my stuff. And I forgot to say thank you. Squeeze. I'm so sorry for not saying I love you. Squeeze. Thank you, Father, Mother, God within me. For reminding me again, let's do it again. Thank you. You can sit down. Feel good, right? Like we forget that. We're always in the busy, but we forget in the thanks of this thing called us. And so I'm here to remind us today about us. See, when, as a minister, we get caught up in I need to give a sermon that will knock their socks off, so possibly I can get a Pulitzer. But that's not what it is about. So this sermon is really a reminder to me, because we forget this experience is all that really is. It's just an experience. So today's talk is called, and I'm so sorry I didn't start my clock. Today's talk is called The Invitation. Now remember I said it's going to be experiential, so I just might call out, someone give me an answer, okay? Today in our society, we are faced with quite a few challenges. It seems this post-pandemic world has created something. We can't always pinpoint it, but something has shifted in our world. Something has just changed, not just for what's out there, but within us. And though we can't always name it, we know it when we're in it. So these challenges have brought forth a lot of stuff, such as, God, get me out of the financial hell I'm in. Some people don't have a loving family, so they might be sitting at the table at Thanksgiving and like, get me out of this family, right? God, get me out of the job. Get me out from being with this person. Get me out of this loneliness. Is there anything else that we sometimes say?
Inner illness, inner torment.
Get me out of this pain, the inner torment. We sometimes beg God, and I'm going to use the word God to just encompass it all, to get us out of the challenges and free us so we can have a piece of peace. Today, many are experiencing some mental health challenges. Children in school are really feeling the pressure of being perfect, of looking perfect. They are being entrenched to be something that is not what looks in the mirror at them because it's never enough. The biggest thing that is leading today's society is anxiety. It's leading the pack. We are worried with regrets. And I don't know about you, but there's been times that I was singing the shoulda, woulda, coulda blues. How it should have been if I would have known how it could have gone. Right? And we're always kind of holding yesterday as the prison of our minds, where it was, how it was, when it was, what it was. But what it was just a moment, and it constantly moves, and we're so busy looking at yesterday, we don't see the blessings that are coming today. So we're always seeking this escape, always seeking a way to get out. And there is nothing wrong with that. If you're trying to get out of something, you need to get out of it. But let me ask you this difference. Before you keep seeking to get out of the situation, have you invited God in to the situation? See, the blessings are not always in the getting out, in the escaping, but the blessings are sometimes in what God is going to do for you in the situation. Did you forget that? You keep going trying to escape, If God is all there is, what are you escaping? Did you forget that? The blessings, let me go back. Mr. Casey stated, "Let my going in be in accord with what you would have me do." You have to get still and know you're going to be okay. Now look at your age. I don't want to know what it is. We're not going to experience on that one. But think about your age. And think about all the challenges you have went through. Think about all the things that you couldn't have gotten out of. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I don't know. We have nervous breakdowns within every month. And we forget. Haven't you got out of so many prior to this? Haven't you always won? Even in the wrong, you have won, because that wrong was the win that you wouldn't do it again. Nikki Giovanni, in her poem Ego Trippin', she says this one piece of that line and that stanza of that poem that I love so much. Don't you know, even my errors are correct. It is when we are in the berating of ourselves, we forget. The scripture states in Proverbs 3:6, "In everything you do, put God first, and you will be directed and your efforts will be made successful." Your efforts, not the perfect self. Your efforts, not the confident self. Your efforts, not the know-everything self. Your efforts. It is in the effort, it is in the intentional smidgen. It is in the audacity. It is in the courageousness within the fear. It is in the scared self. It is in the adult child self that knows even when you feel alone, even when you think you're the only one going through it, even when you're the one who did the damage, that just a smidgen, a mustard seed's worth of faith can take down the monsters, can take down the giants, can take down Goliath of regret, of the shame, of the anxiety that we carry. I need you to begin to remember, pull it out your pocket and hold that slingshot and put it back. Remember, David shot that slingshot. He was small. And that giant, that problem, that inability to pay the bill this week, that inability to meet the mortgage, that inability that I don't look what I used to be, my glory days are gone, that the inability to see that giant as that all it is, a giant can fall. It can fall. Pull that slingshot, squat center, take it down. I hate the subject math. I hated it in school. Oh, I couldn't understand what was the purpose. I don't want to be a mathematician. I just want to write. I want to write. I want to speak. I want to write. I just want to have words. And then that first thing of, I wanted a couch in my house, I needed to measure it. We forget that in the challenges, that what we don't like is what's the best thing for us. In the challenges, I always talk about my weight because that is a thing of my heyday I hold on to. I used to be a serious athlete. I was a marathoner, I was a rower, I was a billiards player, played in Vegas. I was like, I did dragon boat racing. You couldn't tell me nothing, look cute. But it was never enough. Even when I had me at the best of me, I couldn't even see it. Are you seeing how you are right now in the best of you? The amazing of you? Or did you forget? Did you forget that we keep looking for perfection? But what if you already are? You're just not used to seeing it. Perfection is that the sun rises every day at the time it's supposed to rise. But did you forget that even in the ugliness, you ever went through the ghettos and kind of was like, oh my God, I have, kind of came from them. But I can tell you one thing, a rose can still grow through the cracks of those concretes. A rose can still grow. The beauty within the ugly. And is not our lives that? It's not always going to be around the mulberry, pole and just singing and la, 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 la. That was the Smurfs, that's a childhood memory. But it's going to be a moment of, even within the changes, within the, what's going on here, within the chaos. Out of chaos can only come peace, and then you realize when it does come, doesn't it feel good? We are always in the ebb and flow of life, but people try to escape it. People try to run away from the Goliaths. Everybody was running away in the town from Goliath. Don't touch Goliath, he's gonna kill you. The Bible never talks about anyone died from his hands. He just was a tyrant. And aren't our challenges tyrants? They come, and the more you don't face them, the more you choose to let them roam about, they get bigger and bigger, that sooner or later you must face it. Technically, the word anxiety or anxiousness shouldn't even be part of our understanding. It really shouldn't even be a part of what we hold. And I can tell you something. Here's the experiential moment right now. Give me some of the commandments that God has said.
Love thy neighbor.
Love thy neighbor as
Yourself.
We forget that part.
I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Okay. Any else want to share? So you hear the command, right? It didn't say you should try not to have any more gods. And a God is something we worship. Do we worship our problems? Do we make it, do we begin to build altars around it because it's the only thing that focus, but yet God is not in the mix of any of it? Do we forget? So I want to tell you about another commandment that many people forget. It's in Philippians 4, 5, and 7. Do not, it didn't say try not. Do not, it didn't say hope for. Do not be anxious about anything. That's a commandment. But in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, gratitude, let your requests be made known. Why? Because the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in the Christ consciousness. Did you forget that? Don't stop worrying. We all got to stop worrying. I got to stop worrying if I'm doing it right this time. I got to stop worrying about my job and what the board will say. That's my journey right now. I got to stop worrying if you like me if I do. I got to stop worrying. What do you need to stop worrying about? Don't be anxious. It didn't say don't try. It said stop the nonsense. Don't. So, it is in this knowing, the Christ consciousness. We like to use words a lot. So let me break it down in the most practical, because I'm about practicality. I think people love to read a whole lot. I love to read. I went to school. I keep going to school. I have an addiction to it. But, it's like we read and it's like, I know. You know nothing if you can't live it. Just holding words and sounding good, but your life is in shambles. I am here to bring truth. That is a minister. I'm here to awaken us to the Christ consciousness. When you are falling, your crown will get thrown off. Pick it up. I know what I know, and I know that I'm not alone on this journey called life. I have prayer that connects me, that allows me to speak my desires, but the meditation allows me to hear the answers I've been seeking. Mr. Casey, in reading 1645-1, says something so, he was a character. As I'm learning this, man, I'm like, you better go with your bad self. He says, don't feel sorry for self. Know that the conditions which exist are a part of the experience. Use them as stepping stones, as not as stumbling stones. Whoop, whoop. How many times we keep stumbling and like, and we say in the floor all scraped up, get up, get some bathitration, clean it off, and keep it moving. We stay in the hurt. We stay in the hurt because it's a blanket of victimization. It's a blanket of, woe is me. Get up. Not everybody here today will ever have any problems in life. I wish I was you. Some of us have had those challenges. So what I'm saying to you is, no one, like say for example, you're going through something and then you talk to your friend and they're like, well, if you just called me. See, no one's gonna come to support you if you don't ask. See, people, well, doesn't God know about me? God gave you free will, it's a choice. Did you forget that? You gotta ask. Ask and it shall be given. Stop acting like God should know the pain I'm suffering. God's like, oh, you got it. You don't need me in your little self. Go with your bad self. It's like a kid. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing without realizing you got a parent here right for you. I'm here for you. Just ask me. But sometimes you got to let people do what they do. Let them be in their little tornadoes of life. If you don't seek out, Casey states that spirit is the life. So if you are not alone, and do you know that there is no religion, no faith, no spiritual practice on the planet that does not pray or meditate? I don't care where you come from. I just was speaking not too long ago in New York. And I was speaking to a Hindu community, so I was using the Bhagavad Gita, the holy book. They're just flowing, using the sutras of Patanjali, just moving. Because you have to speak at the time to the people, but we're all doing the same thing, thinking that we're all separated. And that's part of the problem. We think we're separated from the problem. For the good, there must be a bad. We must have the duality of life that exists. Without it, life doesn't exist. It must be. You must have heartbreak in order to know what love is. We've all experienced something. Our dreams, I was very upset when that woman took my husband away from me, Denzel Washington, but I had to deal with it, right? Denzel Washington is not my husband, people. Don't be saying it was, right? But when we're thinking about losing things, the blessing is really God coming in to change the things we may not have the strength for. We need to invite God in to give us the strength when you are tired, and life can be so tiring. It brings the love when you don't feel you deserve it. And a lot of times in the mess, we feel we're not deserving of peace. Stop fighting. Stop trying to do it on your own. Stop trying to do it all on your own. Doesn't God say, for I am with you, even when you can't see the way? Maybe we need to realize that maybe the problems are going the way it is because we've pushed God out the way. And we always want to remember God when it's so bad, when you really want to, it's like you hitting rock bottom. It's like, why did you do this to me? Why did you forget me? God might be saying. We talk about our highest potential, but I need you to know that your highest potential is not linear. That's why it's called highest. You gotta climb. You gotta reach. You gotta, and remember, walking up any hill, I'm telling you, I don't care if it's a little hill, I'll be hurting. Walking up any incline is a challenge, is it not? It's not supposed to be easy. It is in the uncomfortability we become our best selves. I'm not saying that we should suffer. I'm saying, but when we hit these challenges, I got through it, and then we forget about it a week later. But for like 4 months, you were suffering. But it takes one shift. And it's usually our consciousness, well, I got through it. I got through it. We have to remember that we have limitations because we have free will, and we bring in our situations, our parents' beliefs, our societal beliefs. So there's limitation right there. But I want you to to look at the world differently. Look at the magnificence. Look at, we're not going to make this political, look at the diversity. Do you see the same tree in the forest? Every blade of grass is a different blade. I don't care if it's the same seedlings. It's a different grade under a microscope. The birds, they be all looking for the same little piece of bread, but there's a little flock of them, some crows, some sparrows, some finches. Do you see how vast God is? There is no limitation in it. For every birth is a death, and for every death is a birth. There is a constant evolution, a cycle. Our cells are renewing. Our life is renewing. Our actions are renewing. What you did yesterday don't mean you got to do it today. If I knew better, I'd do better. Once we do better, do we keep doing what we did? No, we change. And we begin to move in the uncomfortability towards our changes if we have faith the size of a mustard seed, which is my smallest little nail. Keep climbing. If you're a child of God, if you are made in the image and likeness of God, then how can you be limited to the almighty power of God? Did you forget who you are because you forgot whose you are? Are y'all feeling this? You sure? Because I'm just listening, I'm just looking at y'all. Y'all like, excuse me. So it's about the invitation, right? And think about the challenges. Remember that you're strong, you're powerful. Have you not helped so many people in your life, friendships? Think about people you've helped. If you could help them, why can't you help you? You forgot you, the glory of you, the magnificence of you. Do you realize you are a masterpiece? I don't care if you're a twin. I don't care how identical of a twin you are, there is still a difference. It might be in height, it might be in size of an eye color. There's a difference even in the twins that are the same. So real quick, here's a little thing that I want you to do. Think of something negative, get really into it. Think of this problem you got, just think of it. Ooh, get juicy in it, like, get in it now. At the same time, think positive thoughts of you making it. Can you do both? So it takes the same amount of brain power, but it doesn't. Which do you choose to do? Isaiah 43:2 says, I need you to remember this. Do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you go through deep waters, it didn't say you're not going to go through them. It says, when you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, those are torrential flashes coming at you. It didn't say you're not going to possibly feel like you're drowning. But you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, it's hot, it's burning, I can't handle this. You will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you. Mr. Casey so eloquently states, see the joy even in sorrow. See the pleasure that may even come with pain. Reading 3440-2. Remember, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't get burned. They said that even, for God is with us, but even if he's not, that means He ain't right there making sure we don't get burned up. We still will not bow down. Don't bow down to your problems. Stand and know that you are a mighty people, and stand and know that you are with God always. Thank you.